Hello, welcome to What's New Mama podcast. I am Giselle and
Hi, I'm Amy.
hi, Amy. Okay, so we are just doing something to try, and it's mainly for us therapeutic as new moms and trying to, I guess, voice our concerns, our experiences, and share what we've gone through so that other moms don't feel so alone. At least for me, that's my motivation. I don't want moms to feel alone. And I definitely know what that feels like being a new mom and feeling like you're going through something that nobody else understands, or at least nobody told you would be normal. So I felt kind of crazy all alone. But then Amy helped me out through that too in her own way by sharing her experience. And so we decided to share that. Right, Amy?
Yeah, so Giselle approached me about this idea that she wanted to do a podcast. At first I was like, okay, sure, why not? I thought it'd be a good experience for me just to get my experience out there too, because unlike Giselle, I already have two kids. So a little less new and more seasoned, I would like to say, but I'm still learning as I go.
It's always new, regardless of how many kids you have.
Yeah, I'm still learning as I go, and I'm seeing a lot of things that people are doing differently. And I'm like, oh, I didn't know you could do it this way. So I want to see what you guys do as moms out there that we don't do, that maybe we should be applying to our daily lives. So hopefully you guys enjoy it, and I would welcome any and every feedback.
Yeah. And also it's important to note that we are here to share our experiences. We'll have guests on that will share their experiences as well. But most importantly, we're not here to tell you this is the wrong way, this is the right way to do it. There is no right or wrong way. It's just what works for you and your family. And essentially, how do you want to share that with us? Are we going to share it with you? And hopefully it helps somebody, because there's so much information out there. We're living in a digital world of overly saturated market of information and comparison. And when you look at Instagram, it's like impossible to pop open Instagram or Twitter or the internet or any show, any reality show or any YouTube or anything of that sort, that you're not going to compare yourself to. You're like, should I be doing that as a mom? Nobody told me. Or like if you are doing something like putting on Miss Rachel, which I just discovered, and she is a lifesaver for me. If you guys don't know her, she's on YouTube. Definitely helped us out buying some time when my son Derek was, not letting me do anything. Just things like that, where you kind of compare yourself to other moms and other people you see, like, am I doing this wrong? Should I be doing more? Am I not doing enough? And that's kind of what we're here to share and discuss, that you are doing enough. And the way that you do it is your way. And hopefully that we can just have an open discussion on what we do, and hopefully help somebody there.
Yeah, because everyone has an opinion.
Yeah.
Everyone has an opinion. It's fine. I'm here. I'll respect yours and you respect mine. And it's just an open floor.
Yeah. Yeah. And also let it be respectful.
Yes.
I think that's really important to note, that we're living in a point where there's a lot of divide, right? Like it's either you're this or you're that. There's no in between. There's no common ground. And it's like, well, just because you do this doesn't mean you're better or you're worse or any of that sort. You just do it your way. You do it that way. And I can do it this way. I know you and I have spoken about it before, like even the whole vaccine thing and immunizations, like that's a huge topic of debate for moms and other
even
families.
Screen time, like you just mentioned earlier. And I know that's a big thing too. So that's just a couple of the topics that we've written down, that we want to discuss here as well.
Yeah. But then what's another major one? Getting back to you, getting back to yourself as an individual with kids and your identity as a person, not just as a mom, not as like all these many hats that we wear, whether you're a stay-at-home mom, working mom, you're still a person that has decided to embark upon this new, phase in your life. And yes, you chose this stage in your life, but it's okay to say, I don't know what I'm doing. I feel kind of lost, or I feel confused, or I feel alone, and I just need to vent for a second, or I just need to complain. But that doesn't diminish the love and happiness that you do have for your kids and your experience. And I think as moms, we're kind of not allowed to
say anything
be honest.
bad. Yeah, exactly.
To be honest about, like, this can be a little shitty sometimes. This can feel very lonely sometimes. Like, you can feel like the weight is all on you. Even if you have the best, most amazing village and partner by your side. It's just, there's so much that we go through emotionally, mentally, physically. It's a lot of changes. And I know you and I, you guys will find out more about Amy and I and our backstory, but coming from being career women in the work field and in life, like being very independent, and then transitioning over to stay-at-home moms, and even leaving city life and going into like the suburbs.
Yep.
So many transitions, right?
Yeah, that's right.
But I mean, Amy, I don't know if you want to like touch like a little bit further on that. I know, like for me, I'm still trying to like wrap my head around the fact that I'm a mom. Does that ever change? Like, does that ever change?
I mean, I have a 5-year-old, and it's still kind of weird doing. It's like every year there's something new that you're like, oh, wait, I have to do this with them. And as we talk more about it, you'll realize it's like, oh yeah, I have to sit in a teacher's room. Like, I have parent teacher conference now, which is strange, which I recently just did. And I'm like, oof, okay, this is weird. I'm the parent. I'm the one who's getting like the report on how my kid is doing, how, how I'm teaching them, if I'm doing it right or not. Yeah. But that feeling never gets old. It's like something new always comes up. Like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right. And I have to take a deep breath and sit back and go, okay, I'm the parent. And I have to do certain things, and I have to stand up for my kids. So yeah.
That's a big part of it, right? It's like you have to be the voice for your child.
I mean, they have their own opinions, and they'll tell you as they get older, but you still have to stand up for them and speak up and tell them what's right and what's wrong too, which is kind of scary.
Yeah. So it's like, even when you have like moms, like people that are just like, no screen time, right? Like they're like, absolutely not, because they feel like there's research supporting both sides. There's research supporting like, hey, you can do a little bit of screen time. It's not going to do much harm or any damage or anything like that. But then you have the research that says it causes behavioral issues and developmental issues, delays and things of that sort. But as a mother, as a parent, you have to say, what side of the research are you going to go towards, right? Like, what are you going to say? My judgment says this is the way to go.
And honestly, sometimes I'm just like in a desperate position where they have to watch something. Otherwise, it's going to be like,
it's a lot.
My hair out because 2 kids right now. Even when it was just Sienna, like it was just,
it's
just
a lot.
The one.
It's a lot.
Yeah.
And they say it gets easier. So like, maybe you can tell me, I only have one, but does it really get easier in one way or another when you have another kid?
I'm like, no, no,
no hesitation on that. No,
it sometimes what works for one doesn't work for the other. And that's the way I see it. My little girl was very easygoing as a baby, but my little boy was not. So he's like, I don't know. It's just, they're 2 different creatures. So you have to go with a fresh perspective, I think, with each one and deal with each one in a different manner.
As it goes. Yeah. And I would say possibly what people mean when they say that is it gets easier because you're not caught off guard as much, right? Because you already know, oh my God, the diaper blowouts, or if
Oh,
you're
that's the easy
breastfeeding,
stuff. No, no,
the
that's the easy
pain.
stuff.
No, breastfeeding was not easy. Okay.
Oh,
See,
well,
like,
yeah. Okay, that was hard. But
so,
like the changing of the diapers and the blowouts and the
yeah.
vomiting, it's fine. You could deal with
Yeah.
that. It's the personalities, I think, that what makes it a little different.
Yeah. Yeah. Or like when you have to give them medicine and it's like, no, I don't want to go down
My
this
little
road.
girl, she does take medicine. She does take
Yeah.
medicine. Yeah,
Okay.
readily, even when she was little. But my little boy doesn't. He doesn't,
There you
and I
go.
have to pin him down. So,
Yeah. So you have that difference, right? But
hmm
then it gets easier in the sense of, you know, like, okay, my body's going to go through this change. I'm hormonally going to go through this change. You kind of prepare yourself a little bit better, right?
for the second one, sure, I guess. I mean, and I had a very hard time. I think the second one, maybe I've had a little bit of the baby blues
Okay.
when I had
Yeah.
him.
Yeah.
I was having a hard time just getting him to breastfeed and not want to breastfeed all the time, which that's what it felt like. And I think I was just, my body was exhausted.
Yeah.
So it was totally different from my first experience.
Yeah.
And yeah, that was very
Well,
difficult.
it's also too, you have a newborn that you have to care for, but then you
hmm
also have a toddler,
Yeah,
you
she
know,
was
that you
3.
also have to care. Yeah, you have to care for. So the normal break that you would have, right? Like the resting period when
Oh,
you have
no
a newborn,
resting.
you don't
No,
have that.
no rest.
Yeah. I mean, right? It's limited to begin with, but then add on another kid to that equation. And it's like you're
And
running
super
on.
guilty feeling that
Yeah.
I wasn't giving her enough attention was a big thing too. And I
Yeah.
think that made me even more depressed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because you always feel, you know what? I feel like that's just such a common thing. Like no matter how much you do, whether you're a stay-at-home mom, a working mom, or any other title you
Combo in
want to add
between.
to that, yeah, you always feel like you're not doing enough and you're not giving them enough attention or enough love or enough anything. And then on top of that, add on the whole bounce back culture, like pressure, or the whole, oh, well, why are you in leggings and what is it, like a mom bun? Like that
Yeah.
was, a thing,
hmm
or like all of these like little stereotypes and like ideas of what you should be doing.
hmm
It's just like, but who created this? Like who told us that this is what we should try and do the minute we give birth?
The men.
It doesn't make sense to me. And even still to this day, there are so many accounts that I remember I was like, oh, let me follow this account, get this book. Cause I felt it was going to prepare me for these next stages, but nothing really prepared me for the postpartum depression I went through, the postpartum anxiety that I went through, or the challenging aspect of the latch issues, or, pumping, and like having myself be tied to a pump at an outlet, and then finally getting a wearable pump, but it still wasn't the same. And like feeling like that still wasn't enough. And no matter how drained and exhausted I was, I still felt like I had to do more. And everything I was doing just wasn't enough. And I felt like I was like less than, if that makes any sense.
No. Yes, I understand.
So, some days I feel really good and accomplished, like, oh man, I did a lot today. But then something will happen and then it'll just bring it all down. And I'm like, oh, I fucked up.
Yeah.
And it's just, it sucks. It
It
sucks.
does. It does. But that's mamahood. Up, down, no in between.
There really isn't an in between, huh?
No, there's no in between. It's either up or down. You can't have it all.
I feel like every day you're just kind of racing against the clock. Like there's not enough time, whether it's meal prepping or trying to find the time to work out and do things for yourself, finding that time. But then you also feel guilty. Oh, the infamous mom guilt. You feel guilty for saying, hey, I just need like 30 minutes by myself for me.
Yeah.
Like, can I do that? And then when you do take that time, the whole time you're like
right now.
Should I be in the room with them playing? Should I, and it's just, I don't know. I love them dearly, obviously. I love them both. And we wouldn't be able to do this if we didn't have
Our
that
partners.
supportive
Yeah.
partner that would do that. Cause you and I moved away. We don't have a village that's close enough, to support, but even that idea, right? Like having that village, having that community around, if it doesn't exist, then what? Right?
Yeah.
Like, what do you do? And there's only so much you can do with a video call or with a telephone call. But at least there's that. Technology has at least given us that aspect of it. There were definitely times where you would text me just checking in like randomly. And it was like, oh yeah, somebody that would get it. Somebody that's just checking in because they understand how shitty this can be sometimes.
Yeah.
And that made the difference, So thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. So in case anyone doesn't know, but Giselle is actually my sister-in-law. So yeah, but even if she wasn't, I usually just make it a habit of reaching out to new moms and making sure they're okay because it's lonely. It's lonely. And I always make sure that you're okay. And you know that I'm here to listen. I'm not here to judge or say or do anything. Just here to listen. And if you want me to do something, yeah, sure, I'll help as much as possible.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. And a lot of it too, like for example, one of my cousin just gave birth. I'm really big on, let me give her space because I feel like there's so much pressure to entertain people, almost like have visitors, like, oh my God, we haven't seen the baby. We want to let's FaceTime. Let's do this. And it's like, I want to just like, let her enjoy that moment. I want moms to know that they can say no. They can say no to those visitors and all that stuff.
That's a big Latino thing. Like, it's like everyone has to be in your house. Let's go see the baby. And it's like, no. I don't want you to come.
My vagina feels like it's gonna fall. I don't want to see people right now.
With my first, everybody went. I'm talking about my sisters, my mom, my dad, my mother-in-law was there too. And they bought my nephews, which are like 7, 6, maybe 6 and like 8 at the time. Yeah. I was like, why are you all
how soon
here?
How soon after?
It was the next day.
Oh my God.
In the hospital. So I have my titties hanging out, trying to breastfeed. And my mom's like, everyone's coming in, like, cover up. And I'm like, what do you mean cover up? I have to feed the baby. Like, how about you guys wait outside till I'm done? Yeah. And then you can come in. So I'm sitting there and my mother-in-law is coming in. My titties out. And I'm like, oh, well, now you know what your son looks at. Like, okay, thanks. I was like, all right. And, whatever. I was too weak to even bother to say anything. Usually I'm pretty like, vocal. All right, yeah, I'll tell you exactly where it's at. But I was just like, whatever. Say hi to the baby. I was happy to see everyone, but it was just like, thinking back now, it's like, all right, that was too much. That was too much. Could have waited maybe a week.
Yeah.
Week or two.
Yeah. That is one thing I will say that, like with COVID, so I gave birth, I have a 14-month-old. I gave birth during COVID. So restrictions on visitors. And, obviously all of that affected the worry and the stress and the anxiety over like the flu, COVID, the Delta variant was around that time. Then you have RSV, which was completely new to me. Nobody ever told me about that. So you have all these things to worry about, which was a good excuse to say, well, the hospital's limiting visitors, so only one at a time. But then on top of that, even having people come over which was great. Yeah, which was great. It gave us time to soak it in. And I think
have time with your baby too.
Yeah, for Tom and I, that was really important. Because that's just been our dynamic as a couple. Before the baby, like everything was just, let's talk about it together. Let's be a unit and figure it out together. And then we can share this idea or this thought with our friends and our family. But I think that was a special thing that came, a good positive thing that came from giving birth during COVID. But then you have everything else, right? Like the stress of COVID and
Mm-hmm.
everything else that came with that. And then the isolation, which in itself in that moment was a good thing. But then overall, there was no programs for moms to meet and to connect. And I think that's also where I got this idea of having this type of interaction, because I didn't have that community that I can go to, because people weren't allowed. They weren't allowed to see each other.
Yeah.
And you were one of the people that I spoke to around that time. You were like, oh, I was like, well, what helped you? And you said, like, I went to the library and, I connected with moms there, like Jimboree, and like you did all of that. That wasn't an option for me at the time.
Yeah.
And I was just stuck at home. And so I was stuck at home on my phone looking at what other moms do on Instagram. And then I was like, I haven't done any of that. Am I a shitty mom? Like, am I a horrible mom? Am I doing this wrong? Because I'm comparing my unique experience to theirs. And obviously it's social media. So they're showing their beautiful highlighted reel of their good experiences and what they want people to see. So I
Not
think
saying that everyone makes it up or just takes the good
no,
stuff,
no,
but
no, no, no.
because maybe they are Instagramming all
Yeah.
the time.
Yeah, maybe, but at the time it wasn't like I felt like I needed something maybe like this. If I had a couple of moms that were just like, hey, it doesn't have to be like, you don't have to look amazing all the time. And like, don't get me wrong, you're beautiful. I'm saying like, you look beautiful. No, that came out wrong. But you know what I mean? Like, you don't have to be dressed up and dolled up all the time. You don't have to have the kids in matching outfits all the time.
Oh, gosh,
it could
no,
be, yeah. But if you do, that's cool. That's cool. Like, you do your thing. But at the time, I just felt like I could barely even get up to shower. Like, I don't know, where do moms find the time to do that? Like, I remember after I gave birth, I would go like a day or two where I was like, did I shower today? Did I even brush my teeth?
But that's like, that first month is really hard, just in general, because it's like you just push something that you've been carrying for 9 months, 9 to 10 months now, and it's like it's gone. Your body's, you look down, and it's like you're just still puffy.
Yeah,
and it's like to take a shower, to go drag yourself out of bed, to go do all you have to do is feed the baby, take care of the baby, because it's all about the baby.
Yeah.
And everyone seems to forget that you have to take care of yourself too. Not to be selfish about it, but you do have to take care of yourself.
Yeah.
It's important.
Yeah.
Very important.
And can we talk about one like moment that I think I spoke to you about after I gave birth? They wanted me to try and take a shit after I gave birth.
Oh no.
Okay. Do you understand how painful that whole situation is going on in there? I've never had I didn't have a C-section, so I can't speak to that. I do hear stories of obviously the recovery time with that is a lot harder. But I had an episiotomy. Like, and they're like, no, we can't let you leave the hospital until you go number 2. And I was like, really? That can't be legal. That can't.
Man,
that can't
they would have
be
been waiting for 2 weeks for me.
Are you
that
serious?
First time, I couldn't go. They let me go.
You told me that you told them you did, right?
Yeah, I did. And I cried, and I did it half standing up over the toilet. It's almost like I was pushing out another kid, and it was like your butt's on fire. Yeah. It was really bad.
Scared.
No.
Yeah, no, I remember I was like scared, and Tom's like, just go, like, just try. And I was like, but I'm scared. My stitches are going to pop open.
Yeah. No, you actually couldn't even. Yeah, you can't push. They tell you not to push. That's why they give you the
Colace
is the stool softener? Is it? I'm like, stool softener. You need to give me like a grenade, because this isn't going to happen. It's not going to happen. And it's like, I remember right after giving birth, I ate so much, and I was like, why am I not going to the bathroom? This is going to be awful.
Yeah.
No,
So,
no.
That nobody told me about, which I wish somebody would have. That was like,
but it's
what?
like, I feel like a lot of moms don't talk about it, because either tend to forget, because my mom, when she would mention it, she'd be like, oh, you'd be so happy you're going to have another baby right after. And I'm like, oh, no, I'm going to remember all of this. So it's like, I don't know if you tend to just push it in the back of your mind because you had so much pain or trauma to your body that you're just like, it's back here somewhere.
Yeah.
And you forget. And so when you're telling your story to people, you don't really get into depth of those things with them. So, you know, you don't hear that firsthand from someone like, hey, I couldn't shit.
Like, I completely forgot about that until right now. I was like, oh, wait a minute. They wouldn't let me go home, which I'm sure I could have eventually gone home. But they make it seem like, no, you can't go home until you actually go take a shit. And it's like,
oh, yeah.
Why?
They let me go. And it was like a good 2 weeks before I actually did anything decent. I remember I was like, I'm going to die. I'm going to die. And it's going to be because I'm filled with shit.
With toxins that you can't get rid of.
I'm like, I don't know. But my body pulled through. And that was the first time. And the second time was probably the same. Actually, no, it was probably easier the second time. Because the second time I was like, screw it. If I die here, I die here.
Did you have an episiotomy?
Both times. Yeah.
Both times. Okay.
And the second one, my doctor took about 30 minutes to sew me up. And she was like stitching me up like Picasso down there because she said I was jagged. She's like, you're a little jagged. I was like, great. I have no more vagina.
I'm sorry.
She's like, I was like, oh, you're trying to make it look good. Great. Fantastic. Because, you know, I'm going to be looking down there.
Yeah. Which I still don't think my vagina looks the same, but
it definitely doesn't feel the same. I'll tell you that.
I haven't had any complaints.
It doesn't feel the same, but maybe because I'm still having some residual issues with that because I still pee when I laugh.
Yeah. So like that would happen to me early on. I couldn't work out. I couldn't do anything. And that killed me. That got me really depressed because I couldn't work out. One, my boobs were like 50 pounds each. So there was no way I was going to go jogging or working out or doing a insanity workout, which is my go-to. But then on top of that, I'm like, if I do jumping jacks, forget about it. Like my boobs are just crazy heavy and then I'm going to pee. Like what? Nobody tells you this shit.
Yeah, because apparently we were supposed to be getting more help after an episiotomy. We're supposed to have like, pelvic floor therapy.
I didn't know that.
Which I didn't know. It's like they probably should tell us that we should go see them regardless of.
You should.
Because you do get kind of loose. And it's a little bit of a problem. And there's other things that go on too. You could also, your bladder can actually shift. And I didn't know this. So it's like you have to just get checked out right after, I think. Yeah. Just to check off all the boxes because no one tells you any of this stuff.
It's good to know for some other people that may need that information.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, that's crazy. Like I know somebody that actually ended up having surgery recently to do a correction because her bladder was, I guess, bulging. I forgot what you call it, but she had to get it corrected because she had these issues and she couldn't work out. She couldn't do any of that stuff. Yeah. And then on top of that, you just feel like I can't work out. I'm still 20, 30 pounds heavier than what I was before, which I'm still struggling with all that. 14 months in.
Whatever. You look great. I saw her like 2 months ago? Last
2 months ago. 2 months, October.
Fantastic. So I don't care.
Thank you. But yeah, nothing really fits. I had to buy all these sweater dresses that are stretchy because I'm still 20 pounds heavier. And I'm like, what the fuck?
But that takes time. That really does take time. And I know you told me we're different body types. We
do have different body types.
And it's true, but it still takes time. I don't know, like, you know, if anyone needs to hear this, but it takes time. You'll get back and you'll be better than the first time. So just take it easy. If you want to work out and want to lose that, it takes time. It doesn't happen overnight. And I know it's going to take some time to love the way you look sometimes because, you know, you don't fit into your old clothes, but I don't think I ever fit back into any of my old clothes the same way that I did before.
So one thing, my jeans,
keep that in mind.
My jeans, gone. Forget about it.
Yeah, keep that in mind. You don't fit into your clothes the way you used to.
Yeah.
It's like, it's totally different. Like right now, look at where my boobs are. They're all the way down here. It should be up here. After 2 kids, I'm like sagging and then my posture is all messed up. So it's just a lot. It's a lot. Your body goes through a lot. So don't worry.
See,
You'll
those are
get there.
things that you see, right? You notice.
Yeah.
I look at you and I'm like, damn, Amy looks great.
Oh, thank you.
What did
But
she
no.
fucking do that I didn't do? No, seriously, like I'm like, how? Like there's other mom friends that I know that I'm like, you look like you never even had a kid.
Thank you.
Like
But I
it's
eat
just like
McDonald's every week.
that is one, your body type.
Yes,
Two,
that's
genetics.
true. And everyone needs to keep that in mind. Everyone's body is different. So
Yeah, and that's the one thing they don't tell you with all these
yeah, but I still
celebrities.
have little chichos here and there. It's just,
Little
you gotta, I also dress to hide things too as well. So
Just for your new body. That's a
yeah,
big one
because I'm
too.
telling you, my body doesn't look anything like it was before I had the kids. It's like you also get pancake butt. Have you heard of that? Pancake
Heard
butt.
of it.
So it's like your butt squeezes in and you're like this, and instead of popping out, it's like all
So
the way.
the
So
opposite happened for me because I didn't have a butt. I always had
mhm.
hips, but I didn't have a butt. So now I have a butt. And then I feel like I look in the mirror and I'm like, my jeans don't fit and all that stuff. And then meanwhile, Tom's like, you look great. Look at your ass. Blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, but
Like,
that's
thanks.
not. Yeah,
Thanks.
exactly. Like, he doesn't get it. He's like, no, you don't get it. It's all in your head. You got to let go of this old idea of what your body is or what it should be or
Or
whatever
what
it
it was,
is. What it
especially.
was, yeah.
So
Yeah.
and that's what I was trying to tell you.
I know. I know.
He has a point. He has a point. You got to listen to him. He has a point.
Yeah. Yeah, he drives me crazy sometimes. I love him dearly. He keeps me sane. That's the crazy part. He drives me crazy, but he keeps me sane. So how does that work? I don't know, but it works. That's the Libra in him. That's what it is.
Yeah,
Keeps me balanced
that's good.
with all
I'm
my
trying to think.
craziness.
Yeah, that's good. That's good that he does. You
Yeah.
always need that.
And then
But if you
I
don't
drive
have
him
that,
crazy.
if you don't
If you
have
don't
that,
have that, yeah.
yeah, it's tough. It's tough.
Yeah.
My mom was a single mom with her first, and
Yeah.
she had a very tough time. And I'll probably talk about that a little bit later on. I'll share some of that.
Yeah.
She won't be listening, so I won't have to worry.
Yeah. Well,
About
I
her
mean,
sharing her story, but I'm sure she'll be okay with it.
and it's interesting, right? Like you want to obviously protect like people's private lives and things like that, and especially with what we share about our own. But there's purpose behind those stories. There's inspiration too behind the stories that you can help other people. And I think moms that I know that are doing it on their own or, are trying to figure out how to like date again while having a kid and like all that stuff. I'm like, I think that's so important to share and to talk about like that experience. And I tell Tom all the time, I'm like, I don't know how moms do it by themselves because if I didn't have him during that time, because it's just us two, right? Trying to figure it out. I don't know how, I mean, I know at the end of the day, we would figure it out. We would get it done because that's just our personality types, like me, like you.
Yeah.
But having that other person there, it's just like, I give it to the moms that do it without having that support system. Because then you have to go to work. You have to take care of the house. You have to make sure that your kids are in good hands. And you have to then try and regroup yourself mentally, emotionally, physically. Because nobody's taking care of you, right?
That's right.
So, I don't know. It's a lot.
Yeah.
It's great. It's great when you're like at night, like now that I started working again, which, the chaos and I'm overwhelmed with all this shit. But, having the nighttime routine now, like I take Derek and, I try and put him to bed and I hold him and just having him like put his arm around me.
Yeah.
And like
Makes it worth it, right?
Yeah. And it's just like, he still loves me. Because there's times that I'm like, does he even remember me now? Because I'm working.
No.
I'm not home.
It's unconditional love from them. Right now.
Right now, yeah. So that's the thing, right? Like, it can be crazy and shitty, but it's literally the best decision I've ever made
Mm-hmm.
to become a mom and have a
Mm-hmm.
family. Because and like, like I grew up with broken home and all that bullshit, as you know.
Yeah.
But it's tough growing up with no positive experience of what a family should be,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like what it's supposed to look like, the ideal, like the nuclear family and all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And not having that, you kind of grow up thinking that's never going to happen for me. That's never going to be me. I'm never going to have that. And you and I, early on, like when we first met, we had that conversation about just like relationships and how shitty they can be and finding
Yeah.
the right partner. But then I met Tom, and then both of us were like, we don't want kids. We don't want to get married. Like we never really believed in any of that. And then we met, and that's a whole nother story, but here we are, and we're kind of learning how to do it together. And every day I just feel grateful that I have that thing that I always felt I only saw in like Full House or like Family Matters and like all these shows that I grew up watching that I didn't think would be my reality or, something that I can eventually come close to. But here we are.
Super happy. I know. And
Yeah.
I know, guys, because I used to see her before Tom. So now she has this smile on her face all the time. So that's great.
Except for when, we want to kill each other. I will tell you, that's one thing the pandemic definitely taught us. If we made it through the pandemic together,
Mm-hmm.
there's no breaking us apart, because there were some crazy fights living in a studio apartment together.
Oh my gosh. Oh my God. Yeah.
To like home all the time with each other. There's no escape.
Yeah,
Like,
I know. At least I had some place to go. I always had one of the rooms to go hide into.
Yeah. We didn't have that. And so, and then we also have different argument styles, right? Like, and I think you and I have spoken about it. I want to talk about things right now.
Mm-hmm.
I want to figure it out. I want to talk about it right now. He's more of, let's take some time.
Mm-hmm.
Let's cool down, which is the smart thing to do.
Yeah.
Cool down, then let's talk about it.
Mm-hmm.
But no, I'm very like, I'm in it. You're in it. We're going to do this now.
New York. Let's do it now.
Yeah, exactly. Like, let's just figure this out now. Oh, you got something to say? Like, what was that? What was that you muttered under your breath? What was it? So yeah, but here we are, and we have those moments, especially after having a kid, which that dynamic, that relationship, that changes.
Yep.
And then you have to learn now how to be a couple and how to be still that unit, right?
Mm-hmm.
As a family with this new baby that you're sleep deprived and that you're caring for.
Mm-hmm.
That in itself can break relationships too.
Yeah.
But I don't know. We'll talk about that at some other.
We have so much to talk about.
So much. So much. But yeah, I don't know. Did you want to, I guess, I don't know if you wanted to bring something up there.
What for the, well, because my kids are a little older. So, I mean, one thing that I do find that we try to kind of practice is if we are going to have an argument, not to do it in front of them. Because that's important. We want to kind of keep them, I mean, not, kind of at bay at what we argue about, but I find that we don't really argue much about anything lately. Okay. So it's okay. We've been okay. Yeah. No arguments, actually. It's kind of weird. I would say that. Not that we're like, oh my God, we're so good together. But we don't argue that much because we're very direct. I find that both of us kind of be like, we'll like laugh it out a little bit, like, oh, you just did this, ha ha ha. And it's kind of like maybe passive aggressive.
Yeah.
That we do with each other.
And the other person, like it puts the other person on check a little bit.
So it's kind of like we always do that. So I don't think we have too much of an issue about blowing up on each other, and we easily correct that way. So
it's funny that you mentioned that. Like I would say Tom and I do the same. Like Derek's 14 months, but before having a kid, like we set ground rules for each other. Hey, are we going to go down this path? Mm-hmm. And if so, this is what Like, what's our parenting style going to be like? What are our end goals? Like, how do we want to raise our kid and all this stuff? One thing that we both agreed on, no arguing in front of them, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, there's no reason to, I guess, like I grew up with having that exposure, and so
Yeah.
did he.
Mm-hmm.
And so we know the damage that it can cause. So we just decided, like, all right, we got to check ourselves. And so that's kept us very like, oh, we'll talk about it later. And that's
Mm-hmm.
taught me also to check myself and
Yeah.
like, chill out, Giselle. Like, nothing's, it's not urgent. Like,
Yeah.
you're going to be here later. You're going to be here tomorrow. Like, so just check yourself. And so
Yeah.
that has helped us a lot. Even if, Derek doesn't know like what's happening, but they can sense
They
the
sense
tone.
it, yeah, on you too. If you're
Yeah.
tense, they feel that as
They
well.
can sense the energy, the tone.
Yeah, that's
and
what
it
my mom
affects them.
always tells me. She's like, no, you gotta relax because your son feels it or your daughter feels it. Like you have to
Yeah.
relax. So
Yeah.
I
So,
get it.
with us, we tend to do that. But before kids, before
Mm-hmm.
the baby, it was like, let me get the gloves. We will hash this out right now.
Mm-hmm.
But it's just not for what? For what? There's no point. And I think what I needed to figure out, like, and get ingrained in my head is we're a team. We're doing this together. We're not enemies. And so I need to stop acting like it's me versus him.
Yep.
Because there's nothing that he's doing or that I'm doing that's intentionally trying to hurt the other.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And so that's something that I had to learn. And that comes from all my trauma and my previous relationships and all that stuff that I had to work on before getting to this stage.
There's just so much venting to do. Yeah. So much to talk about with that.
Yeah. And then you also think of it like, what example am I setting for my kids?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like, what am I showing them? Is it okay for you to yell and scream?
That's like just coping with like getting over the generational trauma that we had with our parents and trying not to be that way with our kids, because I find myself very reactive sometimes with them. And I'm like, ooh, I got to relax. And I have this conversation with my older sister a lot because she's like me. We're like very quick to react. We'll scream. And that's the first thing that comes up. Like you just want to scream. And it's like, wait, this is what my mom used to do. And I didn't like it. As a kid, my mom would scream at the top of her lungs. And it was like, but that's because she was so stressed. And I guess she didn't have the support that she thinks she needed.
A breaking point.
Yeah.
And then anything would set her off. Yeah.
It was like simmering. And it was just like, so I talk about this with my sister all the time. And it's like, all right, we have to like take a step back. We can't do this. We can't be like this with the kids because they're going to resent us in the future. Because we think about how we feel about our parents. I mean, I love them dearly, but
of course,
there's just some things that I'm like, I wish you guys wouldn't have done that.
Yeah.
So,
I mean,
that's something else we'll be talking about here. Yeah. So,
I mean,
in a few more episodes.
Yeah. And then there's also the aspect of taking the good things that we did learn from our parents and then applying that to this new chapter, this new stage in our family and like doing that. And then trying to, unfortunately, no matter how hard we try, we're always going to take a little bit of even the bad habits, whether it's like DNA, right?
Yeah.
And so we have to like combat that every time, like that urge. Same thing with my mom, like, well, my dad was very quiet and like, but he wasn't there. Or he would do very fucked up things to, the relationship that he would have with these women. But with my mom, she was going through her stress and she was always yelling. She also would hit, like that's how they would discipline, right?
Yep.
I would never, like Tom and I agreed, like we would never put our hands on our kid. Like that's just not what we want to do. That's not how we want to discipline. But then there's like the new age gentle parenting and all that stuff. And it's like, it doesn't have to be like a full extreme, right? Like, it doesn't have to be like you either do this or you're completely wrong. Yeah. Sometimes I feel like we go too far on opposite sides. Maybe we can find an in between, right? And like, it's okay. Like if you did yell, like there were times that I lost my temper and I was like, I can't do this. Like it's too much. I was overstimulated. And then I went back and I checked myself. I took a moment and then I came in and I apologized to both Tom and Derek. And I was like, I'm so sorry. Like, I shouldn't have done that. I should have just taken a moment to myself and so on. Obviously, Derek doesn't know what's going on. He doesn't understand what I'm saying, but there's still that energy and that tone
Yep.
that they're exposed to. And even for me, like, I needed to know that I was holding myself accountable for the behavior that, one, I don't find acceptable, and two, I wouldn't want Tom to do,
Yeah.
or, anybody else to do. And so why would I think it's okay for me to do it? So I think that's important too, right? Like holding yourself accountable when you do make a mistake,
Yeah.
whatever you consider to be a mistake, right? Not based on anybody else's standards. So
Yeah, that's important. And to remember.
It's a lot.
It is a lot.
And every day is different. Every day, whether you slept a full night or not, whether you are tired or you're just like overwhelmed, every day is different. Like you can wake up one day feeling great, and then the next day you can feel like, I'm already stressed and I just woke up. And I don't know where to go from here because all this shit is a lot and I'm overwhelmed and I literally just woke up.
Yeah.
And like there's days like that. But I just feel like I don't feel like I was lied to. I just feel like I was painted a picture of motherhood is just so beautiful and so great and all this, but nobody told me you're going to have those days where you feel like shit or you feel overwhelmed or you feel like you did absolutely nothing. But that's also motherhood. And like, that's part of being a mama and like learning steps along the way. And that makes it, that's like the overall picture. But
yeah, I feel like a lot of the times it's just, it's like taboo almost, like women just don't like talking about it, or if they do, it's within their inner circle, so it's not
like
out
hush,
there.
hush.
It's not out there. I think recently we're starting to see a little more of people being more open about PPD and just like getting the right treatment for even having anger issues and stuff. It's getting better. It's getting better. Just being able to be more vocal and just getting your stuff out there for other people to hear.
Yeah. And also nobody also mentioned the whole childhood issues that resurface or motherhood issues or when you do give birth or when you become a parent yourself, because then you backtrack and it's almost like something that you forget about. Like you forget that this even happened, but then you have a kid and you're like, wait a minute. I remember this happening as a kid. Like that was fucked up. Why would my mom do, or why would my dad do that? Why would so-and-so do that? And so all of these things that you don't even realize are like brewing and then they just kind of come up and you're like, where the fuck did this come from?
Yeah. And you kind of have to just deal with it. It's like, you need to get it out there first and acknowledge it, talk about it. Yeah. So you can be able to deal with it.
You have to, because if not, it's going to come out in a destructive way if you don't check it, or if you aren't aware of it, and it's going to affect you and it's going to ultimately affect your family. Yeah. So little things like that, which I want us to eventually dive deeper into. As far as the podcast itself, like the structure, we're still trying to figure it out. This was kind of like an introductory episode of us, like who we are, why we did this. But going forward, I think having dedicated time and space on specific topics, I think are important because there's just so much to share.
There is, and we can be all over the place. But we'll get better.
Yeah.
And if you guys want to hear something, you could always email us. Yep. We have our website up, right?
Yeah, the website's up. The Instagram page is up. What's New Mama Podcast. So you'll see that, what'snewmamapodcast.com. But it'll all be there. We welcome mamas, dadas, like whatever. We welcome everybody to come and comment on what their experience is like, or if you're a friend of somebody that just gave birth, or anything. Like if you just want advice, maybe like if you want to just vent, like, hey, my friend just gave birth, what can I get her that can actually help her during this period? Like one thing that was super helpful for Tom and I was one of his best friends. They got us a gift card for like Grubhub
Hmm.
because I didn't have to worry about dinner. Like we didn't have to worry about lunch or dinner or any of that stuff. And it was wintertime too. Like it was just easier. Like I didn't have to cook. I didn't have to do
Yeah,
anything.
you
We
have to
just
go out and
ordered.
buy stuff either. Yeah.
Yeah. So things like that, I think are so much more valuable than somebody saying, "Oh, I don't know. I can't even compare it to anything else." I just feel like it was one of those moments that now when somebody does give birth around me, that's one of the first things I give them. I give them a gift card to like Grubhub because I'm like, oh, that was like gold for
Yeah.
us. Like that was so great. Do you have anything like that that helped you like after you
I'm
give
trying to
birth?
think. I only had one of my friends. She was like, "Let me get your list of things that you're gonna get." Actually, it wasn't even a woman. It was a coworker, and he was a man. And he
Okay.
was like, "Send me your list." He was already seasoned. He had two kids. They were older, and he was like, "Send me your list, your baby list, and I'll go through it and tell you what's trash and what you don't need and what
Oh,
you
that's
definitely
helpful.
need."
Yeah.
And they went through my list, him and his wife, and so nice. It was just so nice. They went through it. They told me what to take off, what to put on, what was I
Yeah.
missing, and that helped me a lot because
Yeah.
they're pretty generic online to
Yeah.
follow. So I think that was very nice of them to do. And I
Yeah.
used that same list for my second kid. So
Yeah.
that helped.
And let's be honest, when you go online, there's always a baby list 2022 best items to get and like
And half
Amazon
of them
baby.
is just money.
Yeah. Or it's one of those things that it's like if you don't get these are what the like they frame it in a way that it's like this is what the good moms are getting.
Yeah, you
So
have
like
to
if
get.
you don't get this tier top of the line to top tier organic cotton blah blah blah, then
Hmm.
you're a shitty mom. That's it. Just call
Yeah.
it a day. You're this. And it's like what? Like why?
Yeah.
Why does it have to be that way? So it's nice that you had that. And it's funny
Hmm.
because like friends of mine that have given birth, they're like, okay, you look through like my list and see like what you actually used and all that stuff. And I kind of did the same with other, and I think I asked you, like, what did you do for
Hmm.
your registry and all that stuff?
Yeah.
So, it's helpful. It's helpful to have somebody that has experience, whether you go based on their recommendation or not, that's to your discretion. But it's
Hmm.
nice to at least have that firsthand kind of, I guess, recommendation and like advice.
Yeah. That was great. Funny, I didn't even remember that story. So if Andy's listening to this, thank you, Andy.
But yeah, so okay, so we're learning as we go, and we are here trying to, I don't
Oh
know,
my
build a
gosh, you can hear my
community.
kids? Can you hear my kids? Downstairs,
No, I
they're
can't.
singing. No? Oh man,
No.
they're singing right now. I could hear them.
Oh, what are they singing?
Wheels on the Bus. That's the thing now.
You
Wheels
know that
on
I
the
wake
Bus.
up with these songs in my head. Like Tom and I have this thing that we're like, what happened? Like, what song did you wake up to on the jukebox today? And I'm like, well, today it was Baby, Put Your Pants On, Pants On, Pants On, Babe. That one or the Wheels on the Bus and all the other Miss Rachel songs that I learned. That's another reason why I like Miss Rachel because I learn all these little nursery rhymes and all these songs that
Mm-hmm.
I otherwise wouldn't know because I didn't grow up with that. I grew up with like Pio 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 and like
Mm-hmm.
I don't even know the other ones at this point. But she teaches me, and then I'm able to teach Derek, and then she teaches Tom, and then Tom is now singing all these songs to Derek. So we're learning, all of us,
Yeah,
which is nice. So no judgment on people that do screen time because it can
we
be
do it.
useful. Yeah.
It's like we do it.
Otherwise, I wouldn't be able to, Tom wouldn't be able to do the dishes and I wouldn't be able to go work out. Or
Yeah.
he wouldn't be able to go work out and I wouldn't be able to work on, a project that I'm working on for work or something.
For me,
So
it's just making dinner.
that too.
Making
Yeah.
dinner. That's important. You guys want to
Yeah.
eat? You have to sit down for a little bit. So
Do you and Vic have an arrangement? Like Tom and
well,
I, so the arrangement is I do dinner, he does the dishes.
yes. Yes, I
Okay.
do the dinner. He does the dishes usually, but as you know, his schedule changed
Schedule
recently. So
changed. Yeah.
now I'm stuck doing everything.
Yeah.
It's a little more exhausting for me. But
Yeah.
he picked
He
up
does the
all the
morning
morning
sleep
routine.
though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's good. And he tries to leave no dishes. So
Yeah.
I don't have to do any of that
Well,
later
that's
on.
good.
So that's good.
See, And that's another thing, right? It can be 50-50, but the 50-50 looks differently. Your load
Mm-hmm.
of responsibilities will look differently than his.
But 50-50 is not always 50-50. I don't know if you've
No.
heard of Michelle Obama talking about this, but in a
Oh, no.
relationship, it's not always 50-50. It could be sometimes you're doing 70, he's doing
Yeah.
30, and it's,
Yeah.
you know, it's just going with the flow, really.
Yeah. It's
So,
you pick up where the other person leaves off. And I think it's
mm-hmm.
having that agreement that you're a team and as a unit,
You
you
can come
complete
back.
like you
Yeah.
complete that, right? You're
Mm-hmm.
complete as individuals. That's a completely separate thing. But as a unit, you pick up where the other one leaves off, and that's just what
Mm-hmm.
makes it work, right? Because otherwise, you're gonna sit here, you're gonna be resentful of the other person, like I'm doing all of this, or I'm doing,
Yeah.
and that's a shitty feeling when you feel like you're doing it all yourself. But yeah, it's a balancing act.
Yeah,
But yeah,
that's where it
that's
comes in.
interesting. It could be 70-30,
70-30
20-80.
sometimes. Sometimes it could be he's doing 70, you're doing 30, but it's
Yeah.
coming back and having that understanding that this is what's going on
Yeah.
and not fighting about it.
Yeah. Yeah. But it's the getting to that point that's the hard part. Like
Yeah.
understanding like, oh, this is what we do as a
Mm-hmm.
unit, as a team. So it doesn't have to be like there were days that I was like, I have a huge migraine and
Mm-hmm.
I'm pumping and I'm doing this and I'm whatever and I'm going through my PPD and PPA. And Tom was like, don't worry about it. Like, go stay in the room, go take a nap, go relax, go take time to
Mm-hmm.
yourself. I got this. Like, don't worry about it. And as great as that felt to know that he has everything covered, I still felt like shit because I felt like I wasn't putting in my part,
Mm-hmm.
which we'll dive into in other episodes because that's just never ending feeling.
I
But,
know. I know. I
but
know.
I was lucky to have that because I know that's not the case for everybody.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah.
Do you hear
Well,
Derek? Do you hear
oh,
them
yeah.
making noise?
Yeah. It's
So
either me or your kids.
yeah,
Your kid or my kids. I don't know.
I hear them. I hear them. But anyway, okay. So we will wrap this up
Yes.
for today. And we are going to prepare for Christmas Eve, Christmas Day, and do all
Yeah.
of that. I still have to wrap all the gifts.
Oh.
And I have to finish decorating the tree because I just put up my tree today.
It's okay. As
So,
long as you have it for like the next 2 days, you're good. Your money.
yeah. Yeah,
So
it'll
it's
probably
fine.
stay up until February.
Oh my God.
I got to make it worthwhile. I just put it up.
Yeah, I had to wrap all my gifts like while my kid was in school and the other one was napping. It's
Yeah.
all hidden back here in this
Do you
closet.
do you do Christmas Eve gifts or Christmas Day?
Christmas Day. Christmas
Okay,
Day.
because
We started
Santa
doing
came.
Christmas Day. Yeah,
Santa
because
comes
they're
the
little
night.
now. But I think later it might change because when I got older, we started doing Christmas Eve.
Yeah.
Because there was no Santa then by that time.
Yeah. Okay. All right. I haven't crossed that bridge yet.
No, for me, I think they're going to be with Santa for a while. Even though I think
Yeah.
Sienna's getting a little too wise for this. She was
Yeah.
like, "Hey,
How does
mom,
he visit
is
these
this?"
houses?
I think it might have been my mistake, but she was like, "Is this tissue paper or is this wrapping paper here?" And I was like, So yeah, I wish everyone luck for Christmas with little ones.
Especially because they can easily be like, Google, hey Alexa, or whatever.
Oh, my
Where's
kids don't
Santa?
know
Or
about that
blah,
yet.
blah, blah.
They don't know
No.
about that yet. No, she doesn't do that yet.
Okay.
Thank God.
Okay. Good. Good. I've heard some
No.
stories. So
No, she
all
doesn't do
right.
that yet.
I hear the boys going crazy back there. So
Baby's coming.
yeah. So all right. So this is who we are. This is what we're gonna be here to do. What's New Mama podcast. Please feel free to comment, share feedback, like, subscribe, all of the above, and just, give us feedback too, because we want to know, like, what do you want to hear and what would be helpful, and I don't know what else, Amy.
I think you hit it.
Okay.
It's like
All
what
right.
you want to hear, or maybe what you don't want to hear.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
too. That too.
And we hope that you enjoy listening to us and watching us.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for your time. Okay. All right. I gotta go. You gotta go. The wheels on the bus before it leaves you. And
Yes. Yes, I do.
thank you. And I'll see you next time.
All right. Bye, guys.
Okay. Bye.
Bye.